She'd haunt us. It's not working? Okay. All right. Okay. Control-Alt-Delete. Oh, 798. On the desktop. Up here in the corner, real big. At least it was. 10. Right there. There we go. Oh. There we go.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you. Please stand if you are able.
Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. I'm not holding it in anymore. I'm gonna shout it out loud. I understand now what I'm here for and what this life is about. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, about lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right. Swing wide the doors to let in the light. Bring in the dawn for humankind. Swing wide the doors of this heart of mine. There's a voice that I've heard for years. I learned to keep it inside. Well, now it's coming in loud and clear. I want a deeper life. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand. It's about love, it's about laughter, it's about comfort and smiles. It's about love, it's about kindness, it's about hearts open wide. It's about love, it's about passion, it's about taking a chance. It's about love, it's about service, it's about lending a hand, about lending a hand. Swing wide the doors, the time is right.
There's good energy in this room today. Can you feel that? What a glorious day. Well, let's begin with our affirmation for peace in the Middle East, which we say each week in solidarity with our Muslim and Jewish brothers and sisters, knowing that all of us are people of the book. And so we greet one another saying, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Peace be upon you.
And upon you, peace.
Shalom.
Alaikum shalom.
Well, I think you know that I'm Reverend Michelle Vargas, and I am just so happy to be here today, but I'm especially yay! And we've got Denise's sister Cherise here also. It's a glorious day. And also, I don't want to make too big of a deal out of it because it's really Vicky's thing to share, but Vicky did have a grandbaby born yesterday. And her name is Charlie for Charlotte.
Yes.
So Vicky, our senior minister, is in Cincinnati, spending time with her daughter and her 2 older grandsons. But her grandbaby, of course, was born here in Monterey. Came a little bit earlier than was expected, but I know Vicky is over the moon. And I didn't put a picture or anything because I'm going to let her do that when she gets back. So anyway, we hold Vicky in our hearts, and we're just so overjoyed for this new life that has come into the world to bless the whole elder family. And we just see mom and baby healthy and doing well. And we see Vicky enjoying her time with her family and returning home safely to us in a couple weeks.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. Well, it is my joy and honor to welcome you this morning to Unity of Monterey Bay, a beloved community co-created with love and intention that welcomes all people, all races, nationalities, cultures, and religions, whatever your immigration status, sexual orientation, gender identity, family configuration, and or abilities. And whether you're here with us in person or joining us virtually, we know that love knows no boundaries and that we are one in spirit. As a purpose-driven church, Unity of Monterey Bay is an inclusive spiritual community committed to co-creating an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just, and compassionate human presence on this planet. We celebrate our oneness, and we honor the God of each of our understanding, affirming the innate good and the divine essence that we know is the truth of each and every one of us. So will you please join me now in our statement of faith? There is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, expressing as infinite God beyond us, intimate God beside us, inner God being us, divine love in action. And so as we allow this knowing to deepen within our souls and serve to awaken us into enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings in the Middle East, in our own nation, and wherever else there is turmoil in the world. And so let's join in our prayer for peace. Let's say this together. See if I can get the hand motions right this time. Okay. I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the one source, and I bow to that source in you. Let us work together for unity and love. And so it is. And now, let's affirm together, thank you, God, for this most amazing day. Miracle follows miracle, and wonders never cease. And I have to say, I'm always whining about like summer being over and everything, but are we having a beautiful fall?
Gorgeous, gorgeous.
There's been a little, blips in there, but it's just stunning. So everybody else starts to get their bad weather, and we're just having like our awesome summer. So now it's the time that we bless our children, the children in our own spiritual community, in our own families and neighborhoods, and our larger community, all the children around the world, and our own inner child. Opening our hearts wide and seeing them protected and resilient, creative and evolving, joyous and loved as we join in our heartfelt blessing. We love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are.
This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This bright light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
So now let's take a much needed breath in and let it out with an audible sigh. Let's do that together. I need a second one this morning. Allowing this breath to center ourselves so that we might embrace this blissful interconnection with Spirit as we invite the chime to call us into this sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and to remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Focusing on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. We envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into the divine flow. And again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies. And as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace we can imagine as we experience a transforming wave of gratitude. And with a fullness of heart, we say yes to it all, embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we say, thank you, God. So now, fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our lesson and meditation time with today's daily word.
And the word is discover. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. As I discover, I learn and grow. My life is a journey of discovery. Over the years, I may have traveled to other lands, discovering new cultures and landscapes. Through my explorations, I have learned all kinds of things and grown in all kinds of ways. My spiritual life has been a journey of discovery as well. Through my spiritual practice, I have deepened in my understanding of God and of myself as a spiritual being. I've discovered new landscapes within myself as I have communed with God in prayer and have changed my life through the power of my thinking. As long as I live, I will find more to discover. Questioning, listening, and growing help me discover the wonders within and all around me. And from scriptures, call to me, and I will answer you, and will tell you. Jeremiah 33:3.
Touching spirits, touching hearts, touching loved one, never touching loved one, never part, not by distance, touching you on the other side, touching you on the other side.
In witness to the wisdom of the many paths to the sacred, we read from 3 sacred traditions on this morning's topic, Rewilding Our Grief. From Sufism, grief can be the garden of compassion if you keep your heart open through everything. Your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom. From Rumi. And from Judaism, the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. And from Christianity, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Matthew 5:4.
Oh, we never know where life will take us. We know it's just a ride on the wheel. And we never know when death will shake us. And we wonder how it will feel. So goodbye, my friend. I know I'm never, but the time together through all the years will take away these tears. It's okay now.
Goodbye, my friend.
A life so fragile, a love so pure. We can't hold on, but we try. We watch how quickly it disappears, and we'll never know why. But I'm okay now.
Goodbye, my friend.
You can go now.
Goodbye, my friend.
Beautiful, Denise. Thank you so much. How many people felt some emotions coming up there? So let's just take a moment to honor that, to honor those tender feelings that come up when we hear a song like that. It's okay. It's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to shed a tear. This is a safe space where we are learning not only to play and have joy together, but also to grieve together, because that's what family does. And so thank you, Denise, for that beautiful song and beautiful moment. Well, we've been talking over the past couple of months about this idea of rewilding, which I found out Walter likes. Walter likes this. He's like, yes, rewilding. So we talked about rewilding our bodies, rewilding our spirituality, rewilding our spiritual practices, and then last week we talked even about rewilding our understanding of death. And by rewilding, I've meant to get back to a more natural way, to reconnect with the natural world and our place in it, and to understand that we are not separate from nature, but integrally a part of it. And that nature, paying attention to and observing and studying and understanding nature, can help us understand ourselves and our human experiences. But there's another sort of meaning of rewilding that I also like, and that is rewilding meaning undomesticating. Yeah, Walter likes that one too. And I started to think about this, and I thought, in so many ways, we humans have become overly domesticated. We live largely indoors. Okay, not in California, right? But I mean, still, we spend way too many of our hours inside. We interact mostly with computers and man-made things, man-made objects, rather than with living things like plants and rivers and dirt and birds. And our behaviors are controlled by these social codes we have that tell us how we're supposed to act in any given situation. Even our feelings have been domesticated. There are cultures in other parts of the world, I'm thinking of Africa, but probably also India and other cultures where when there is a grief, the women do this wailing thing. Have you seen that, like on the internet? And it's primal, and it's just so, we don't do that in our culture anymore, And so we've domesticated even our feelings. Now, it doesn't mean we don't feel things. Of course we do, but we do it in an orderly fashion, right? Always keeping ourselves sort of under control. We don't want to ever be inappropriate or be too much or be offensive or bothersome to others. We have to have social codes. But I would say that to the extent that we have created a situation where we are unable to be fully human, fully ourselves, in that case, I would say that we are too domesticated. We need rewilding. We need to break out of those shackles of this domestication with its prescribed behaviors and its acceptable emotions and become more human, more natural, more wild. And this need to undomesticate ourselves and become more wild and natural pertains to many aspects of our lives. But today, we're talking about grief. And I believe that we need to rewild our grief as well. Now, by rewilding our grief, undomesticating it, I mean to stop stifling our experience of grief, to stop stuffing it and forcing it into polite spaces and neat boxes. And as I've been exploring over the years the topic of death and loss, I have found so many authors that write about death and loss saying the same things over and over and over, that we are a culture that has forgotten how to properly grieve. Sure, of course, we feel the loss of our loved ones as much as anyone, anywhere. But we do it within the neat confines of respectable societal norms. So when a loved one dies, we may cry, of course, spend time looking at old photographs, maybe even take a day or two off for bereavement leave. But then we mostly try to get back to our same lives and carry on almost as if nothing has happened, when really everything has happened. Right? With our loved ones passing, everything has changed. But it seems that our modern life requires us to get back to normalcy as quickly as possible. Now, this is not our fault. Well, it sort of is, but I mean, it's our culture to the extent that we create culture, right? But it's the culture. We've become so busy, so obsessed with productivity, that we can't even take time to grieve our losses. I know someone who lost their father and took care of all the arrangements that afternoon and was back at work the next morning. When we skip over our grief and we don't give it the time and attention it deserves, what happens is that grief can begin to accumulate, right? It's like we get a backlog of grief, and it can start to accumulate in our bodies. We can sometimes fool our minds, but we can't usually fool our bodies. Our bodies know. That's why you hear a song like that, and the body reacts, right? The tears come, the feelings, because the body, like there's that book out right now, The Body Keeps the Score. You know, the body knows that grief. Sometimes if we have a lot of these untended, accumulated grief and losses, we may find that something relatively small can be the thing that sort of sets it all off like one day out of the blue, you know, and find ourselves in this deep grief and wonder, how did this get here? You know, how did I get here? How did this happen? But it's because there's all this backlog of grief that we haven't given the time and attention and space to process and to experience and to move through. Now, our culture really doesn't teach us how to grieve. Often, we don't want to make other people uncomfortable with our grief, so we kind of cover it up, right? Or we don't ask other people about their grief because we don't want to make them uncomfortable. There's all these taboos, right? Don't bring up that the person's, you know, loved one died unless they bring it up, or, you know, and then if you don't bring it up, you feel bad, but you don't want to bring, you know, it's very complicated. We're sort of a grief-averse society, and it doesn't serve us. We all know that stuffed feelings of any kind are not good for us, right? They're not good for our souls, and they're certainly not good for our bodies. And grief is one of the most universal human experiences that every single one of us will experience at one time or another in our lives. It is one of the things that binds us together as human beings. And of course, we also know that there's evidence of other animals grieving their losses as well. We're not the only ones who grieve. So we need to learn to grieve better, both individually in our own lives and collectively as a society, as a community. Now, what if by cutting short or stifling our grief, we're really actually doing ourselves a huge disservice and missing a rich opportunity for personal and spiritual growth and transformation? When we're in the midst of a loss, it can be hard to see like how this is going to, you know, what this is going to teach me, or how this is going to grow me, or how this is going to transform me. When we're in the midst of it, right, we usually just feel pretty lost and broken down and unmoored. But many folks have written about their experiences of enduring devastating losses and have shared that in addition to the pain and sadness, which is always going to be there, right, they have also, through this process, experienced tremendous growth during their time of grief. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah, okay. Well, many of us here remember watching Vicky go through the loss of her beloved husband, Rory. 18 years now? And while I'm sure that Vicky would really much rather that he had not died, we were all privileged to witness this amazing growth that happened in Vicky as she bravely walked through her grief process, and she allowed us all to be witnesses to that. Do you remember that? That was powerful. I learned so much about death and grief by her being willing to share in that process with us. So, ministry partner, and they had sort of a natural division of labor, right? They had different things different personalities and styles, and different things that they like to focus on in ministry. So when Rory died, we watched Vicky all of a sudden go, oh, like I don't have Rory here to be the one like, hello, my baby. I mean, that was Rory, right? All the time. Now she has me, but, you know, and so it's not that she became like Rory, but she expanded to fill in that space a little bit more. And she acquired some of those characteristics that Rory had that were necessary for ministry. And that was a beautiful process that many of us were fortunate to be able to, the way she came out of her shell, right? When suddenly she was like, well, I'm on my own now. And then you just saw her blossom. I mean, I used to come every week just going, darn, I am watching the transformation of a person every Sunday before my eyes, right? Some people are nodding, so you remember that. And that's because she chose to move through the process in a way that she chose to take the lessons and the blessings and the growth and the transformation from that experience. Mirabai Starr is an award-winning author, an internationally acclaimed speaker, and spiritual teacher. And a few years ago, we used material from her book, Wild Mercy, which she wrote about the women mystics. And Mirabai also happens to be a trained bereavement counselor. Now, Mirabai's journey with grief began in earnest when her 14-year-old daughter was killed in a car crash. Ironically, this tragedy occurred on the same day that her book, The Dark Night of the Soul, came out, which she had written about the 16th century Spanish mystic, St. John of the Cross. Now, Mirabai and her daughter had been extremely close, and she was obviously devastated by her death and went through all the things that you can imagine. But over time, she found that by facing her grief head on, by sort of leaning into the experience and seeing it as a spiritual teacher, she ended up finding that her grief process yielded these opportunities for profound transformation. And now she uses that experience to help others learn and grow through their own grief process. So what happened was that in the depths, Mirabai found the spiritual awakening that she felt she had been seeking her whole life. She was very into the mystics, the great mystics, especially the Christian mystics, and she had translated a number of, I think, St. Teresa of Avila, a number of the mystics. She had translated their works, and so she wanted to have that experience that they had had. Who knew that it was going to come in the midst of her grief? Listen to how she describes the experience. And this is a little bit long, but I just want to read this because it's really powerful. And this came from the website for the Center for Action and Contemplation. Suddenly, the sacred fire I've been chasing all my life engulfed me. I was plunged into the abyss, instantaneously dropped into the vast stillness and pulsing silence at which all my favorite mystics hint. So shattered I could not see my own hand in front of my face. I was suspended in the invisible arms of a love I had only dreamed of. Immolated, I found myself resting in fire. Drowning, I surrendered and discovered I could breathe underwater. So this was the state of profound suchness I had been searching for during all those years of contemplative practice. This was the holy longing the saints had been talking about in poems that had broken my heart again and again. This was the sacred emptiness that put that small smile on the face of the great sages. And I hated it. I didn't want vastness of being, but I discovered that there was nowhere to hide when radical sorrow unraveled the fabric of my life. I could rage against the terrible unknown, and I did, for I am human and have this vulnerable body, passionate heart, and complicated mind. Or I could turn toward the cup, bow to the cupbearer, and say, yes. I mean, can you imagine in the midst of that kind of grief having the courage to turn toward the cupbearer and say yes? Yes to this experience? Now, Mirabai is clear that she would not wish the pain of loss that she felt and that she endured on anyone. However, she found that the grief of losing her child brought her to her knees in such a way that she was able to experience a longing for the divine that changed her. Maybe some of you have had those moments of being on your knees where everything else is just not going to work, and there's that longing for God. And she says that our grief can break our hearts open to the extent that only the love of God can heal us. And if we can find the courage to reach out for that love in the midst of our grief, it can be transformative. So if we can keep our hearts open, grief can create a space for the beloved to enter. And we can experience a love that transcends all of the pain and suffering. But in order for us to get to that point and have that experience where we can allow our grief to transform us, we've got to first to rewild it, to undomesticate it and rewild it. Too often we try to tame our grief. We tamp it down, keep it under control, or we rush through the grief process. We don't give ourselves the time and space that we need to truly grieve our losses. But to face this experience of loss requires bravery. It requires courage to undomesticate our grief and to let it out into the wildness of our true human emotions, our true human experience. And often we are required to slow down enough to let our grief catch up to us. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Jen Hatmaker, a best-selling author, blogger, and podcaster. She has a new memoir out right now called Awake, and I've been reading it this past week. And among other things, the book tells the story of the sudden breakdown of her marriage after 26 years and 5 children. And she and her husband were also youth pastors, so they also had a ministry together. The book, boy, it just thrusts you into it right away. It opens with the scene where the night where she awoke at 2:30 a.m. to the sound of her husband lying next to her in bed, texting what she later found out was his girlfriend. Now, as you can imagine, in that moment and in the hours and days and weeks that followed, as the truth of his affair, was revealed to her, Jen was thrust into the worst possible nightmare. The marriage, the family, the ministry, the life she thought she had suddenly crumbled before her eyes. Not only did she lose her husband, but she lost the idea of what she had thought her marriage was. That's a loss. Needless to say, she was devastated. And she went into a grief that was deeper and more painful than she could have ever imagined. Now, Jen was fortunate because she had a lot of support. She had parents, siblings, and a close friend group who all sort of came to her rescue, They showed up at her house to help with the cooking and the household chores. They took care of her children when she could barely take care of herself. They immediately started handling all the things that needed to be done. And as a result, Jen was never once left alone for even a moment in those early days. Fortunate to have that kind of support, and those people really helped her in the aftermath of the marriage ending. But what happened was that one day, a few months in to the process, she suddenly one day found herself unable to even drive more than a couple blocks down her street before she had to pull over under her neighbor's tree. And there, inside the car, all alone, she finally let herself really feel the grief for the first time. She cried and yelled and screamed and beat her fists on the steering wheel, sobbing and howling like an animal for a full hour. You see, she had been running full speed ahead and had not let her grief really catch up to her until that moment. And even though her friends and family meant well, they hadn't given her a single moment to be alone with her grief. And so that day, sitting in her car under her neighbor's tree, Jen finally allowed herself to feel the full force of the overwhelming grief. And it was painful. If you've experienced that, you know. But what do you think happened? After that, she started to feel better. She started to feel better. And her true healing really began after that moment. This week I also read a story in an article about a woman who had been carrying a burden of grief, many different losses, for many years, and she signed up to attend a retreat for grieving women with Mirabai Star. And toward the beginning of the retreat, Mirabai had each woman draw a card from the medicine cards. If you're familiar, they have like animals on them that represent things. And this woman was surprised when she drew the turtle card. In fact, she thought it was pretty ironic because she was literally a sprinter. Now, who says God doesn't have a sense of humor? So she was like, really, the turtle card? Because she was someone who tended to move pretty quickly through life. And as she went through the days of this retreat, she found great comfort in sharing her grief experience with the other women attendees, and she leaned into that support of the other women. But it wasn't until toward the end of the retreat that the woman began to really open herself to the wisdom of the turtle's medicine. She learned that in some indigenous cultures, the turtle represents Mother Earth. It also represents creativity, protection, and the feminine. She also learned that in Hinduism, the turtle is one of the 10 avatars of the god Vishnu. And as such, turtle serves as a bridge between the external and internal worlds. In a sense, turtle is a reminder to withdraw from the senses and to go within, a practice that apparently in Hinduism is called pratyahara. And so the woman heeded that turtle medicine, and she did just that. She finally took some time away from the other attendees to withdraw from the outside world and go within. And as she began to allow that turtle medicine to work on her, she realized that what she had most needed was to slow down and be with herself, to go within, where the real healing takes place. And with Turtle's guidance, she was able to do that and to finally let down her defenses and finally begin to set down this heavy burden of grief that she had carried for years. She just needed to slow down and feel it and really go within. It takes courage. Made one of the biggest contributions to our understanding of grief with her book on death and dying, which came out in 1969. And in this book, she famously introduced the idea of there being stages of grief. You remember that? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And that book has helped a lot of people, myself included. But apparently, Kubler-Ross later regretted that when she called them stages, somehow she seems to have led folks to understand that they were stages that would occur as a linear process, moving from one to the next. And she later said that she had never intended for them to be understood in that way, or to imply that everyone would go through these stages in the same way. Mirabai Starr often calls them stations instead of stages, which kind of takes out that linear quality of it. Stations, because you go to a station and you leave, and you go to another station and you leave. And so these are places along the way of the path of grief that people tend to go through and go to, but there's movement back and forth between and among the stations rather than it being a linear process. And Mirabai, because of her own experience with that transformational power of grief, she sometimes refers to them as portals for transformation. And in her work with grieving folks, she teaches that the grief process, while painful and challenging, can also be truly transformative when we lean into it and allow it to change us at depth. And the truth is, and if you hear nothing else today, hear this. Each of us moves through grief in our own unique way. There is no one way to grieve. There is no right way to grieve. And there's no prescription for grief, except to do our best to allow it. Sometimes we tend to think of grief as a problem that needs to be solved, like a pathology. But Mirabai emphasizes that grief is not a pathology. It is not an illness that we need to recover from. It is simply the human condition, as natural and wild as any other human experience. And so our invitation is to be with it as best that we can and let it transform us if that's what it has come to do. And so we could say that we need to rewild our grief. And in rewilding our grief, it can help to remember a few important guidelines. Honor our own process. Take all the time we need. Seek support as we go through it. Super important. Allow rather than avoid our feelings of grief. Let grief lead us closer to the divine. And allow the possibility of grief being a transformational experience rather than a problem to be solved. Mirabai Starr says, "It is by showing up for the full encounter with reality that we discover our hidden wholeness, which was, of course, present all along." So it is my wish that we together in community, that we might use our own human experience of grief to uncover that hidden wholeness, which has been present in each and every one of us all along.
Spirit within, carry me. Spirit within, carry me home. Spirit within, carry me home to the one. Spirit within, carry me. Spirit within, carry me home. Spirit within, carry me home to the one.
Now we have an opportunity to get quiet, get still in our bodies, and take these teachings into a time of meditation. And so just bringing an awareness to your breath, just noticing the way the breath comes in and the way the breath goes out. With each breath in, breathe in that oxygen, that breath of life, giving you life and vitality, and breathing out all worry and concern and all things that no longer serve us. Breathing in life and vitality, breathing out that which is no longer needed. And just allow your attention to rest gently on your breath. Listening to the sounds around you. Feeling the sensations that are present in your body. And practicing just being here for a moment. Right here. And I love the saying this time of year that the leaves are teaching us how beautiful it is to let go. So if you can, just imagine yourself out in nature somewhere with beautiful trees and leaves of all different colors. And notice the sound that the leaves make as you crunch them under your feet. See the squirrel running up the tree, the blue jay squawking overhead, the sun filtering through the leaves. And let nature show you how it lets go. Pick a leaf, any leaf of any color on any tree, and see it release itself from the tree and gently flutter down, 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 until it comes to rest on the ground. See how beautifully the tree lets go of its leaves and fall. The bravery of the leaf in letting go and floating down to the earth. See the squirrel storing up nuts for the winter. And allow nature to show you that everything has a time and a place. Everything has a season on this earth. Life and death, rebirth, more death, more rebirth again, around and around in a never-ending cycle. Something dies so that something else may live. And while knowing these things does not take away our experience of grief or loss, I invite you to let these things comfort you. And whenever you need to, you can just go outside and watch how beautifully and naturally and wildly nature moves through this time of release and letting go.
Spirit within, carry me. Spirit within, carry me home. Spirit within, ever one. Spirit within, carry me. Spirit within, carry me home. Spirit within, carry me home to the one.
So as we begin to prepare to bring this time to a close, we are so grateful for these teachings. And so we say thank you to nature, which is also God, for showing us the beautiful and natural and wild cycles of life. May we lean into them and move with more ease through the cycles of our own lives. And so we bring this time to a close and we say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen.
I have to find the offering because for sure you don't want me singing the song that was on top of it. Trust me on that one. So we're at a time in our service where we have one more opportunity to become part of God's flow of good and love in the world through our tithes and our offering and our collective consciousness. Our collective consciousness is the commitment of all of us who give us our time, our talent, and our treasure in order to sustain this spiritual community that is dedicated to transforming lives. We know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation and abundance and joyous generosity. We transform all appearances of lack and fear into faith-filled peace of mind by shifting our attention to thoughts of gratitude for the abundance of God's good in our lives. So the reading today included these words. My life is a journey, and over the years I've traveled to many lands discovering new cultures and landscapes. Through my explorations, I have learned all kinds of things and grown in all kinds of ways. So Howard and I just returned from a cruise and a bunch of excursions and journeys in eastern Canada. We did this, our timing is often perfect in this way. We did this as Trump was announcing new tariffs for Canada. And I was aware of that, a little bit uncomfortable. I was out walking one day and I went into a small shop. And along with the I love maple syrup and I'm not perfect, but I am Canadian and that's close, T-shirts that you would expect to find in such a place. There was also signs for your car, your window, and keychains that said, Canada is not for sale. And several other things that were a little bawdier regarding our current administration. I was the only person in the shop, tiny little shop, and when I got to those things that were for sale, they were on cups, by the way. This was, planned and invested in. I started to sidle towards the door, and the proprietor, who was in the back, said, wait, the time, and he said, don't take offense to our Canadian sense of humor. He said, you don't want to buy Canada, do you? I said, well, no, of course I don't want to buy Canada. He said, see, it's not you. You're welcome here. It's your stupid president. And I said, well, he said, you don't need to apologize. We love you. We love Americans. We just don't love your president. And I thought, we are taught to welcome the stranger. And there are all kinds of what we think of feeding them and, giving them clothes and all that kind of stuff. Well, there are all kinds of ways to welcome the stranger and make them feel loved. And I'll never forget the kindness and the attention of that lovely man in that weird little shop. As the ushers now come forward, I invite you to think of something specific that you're grateful for in this moment. And now, with our hearts and minds overflowing with gratitude, we breathe into the divine flow of God's good, trusting that we are enough, that we have enough, and that there always is enough, both to have and to share. For those of you who give online through our website or have set up monthly auto payments from your bank or give by credit card, we're grateful. And we ask that you join us in faith and gratitude as we pass the offering baskets this morning by holding and blessing the basket as it passes to you. And now please join me in our offertory blessing. I am an open channel for God's infinite good, divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
listening to the call of the universe, beckoning me to make my way home. I am opening to infinite divinity ever within me. I am not alone. I am listening to the call of the universe, beckoning me to make my way home. I am opening to infinite divinity ever within me. I am known as the pull of the sun urges the blossom to come forth. I am that I am, as the ocean in a wave unceasing breaks upon the shore. I am that I am, as the archer bends the bow and gently lets the arrow go. I am that I am, as the beacon shining out from within the lighthouse glows. I am that I am. Oh, I am listening to the call of the universe, beckoning me to make my way home. I am opening to infinite divinity ever within me. I am not alone, as the spring of living waters deep within a well renews. I am that I am, as the symphony in one chord draws everything in time. I am that I am, as the weather vane points in the direction of the wind. I am that I am, as a deeper dimension that expresses from within. I am that I am. Oh, I am, as the stirring of the chrysalis dreams of breaking free. I am that I am, as the silence in the thunder reminds me to release. I am that I am, as the sweet relenting emptiness fills me to the brim. I am that I am, as the ultimate ending from which we all begin. I am that I am. I am. I
love singing with that purple-haired lady.
I love singing with you.
Oh, so it is with great joy that we bless and give thanks for these gifts and offerings that demonstrate our collective commitment to the spiritual work of love and transformation in our lives and in our world. We dedicate this offering, our lives, and this ministry to more fully expressing the Christ light that is the truth of our being and inviting all people to know God's love. Finally, knowing that one with God all things are possible, we affirm together, the good is now, the rest is blessed, and the best is yet to be in our lifetime. Gently. Thank you, ushers. For our awesome music today, we want to thank Paula Mandela, Carla Bonoff, Karen Beth, and Daniel Namod, and our awesome music team, John on the drums and Sue on the keyboards, and Denise and myself. Yay! For announcements, check the e-blast. What's the first one? Okay, so Day of the Dead is next week, and it actually falls on Sunday this year, so we're in perfect timing. If you notice, people have been bringing in, I don't know, the altar came out a little different this year. I like how each year it kind of, I don't set out to do anything, it just comes out differently. But I like how everyone's pictures are kind of all grouped together in the front, and it's so beautiful. And so you are invited to keep bringing in your photographs to place on the altar as you wish. And we will be having our annual Day of the Dead Remembrance and Candle Lighting service next Sunday during the service, where you will have an opportunity to hear some beautiful music and hear some folks share about their loved ones and learn a little bit about Day of the Dead, and then light a candle for your loved one. And then after we have done all that hard grief work, we go downstairs and we feast on Mexican food. I mean, what more do you want, you know? It's everything you need here. So everyone is invited. You don't need to bring anything next week. We will handle all of that, and I hope to see you next week. American Agitators is a movie that our COPA team is wanting to get folks together to go and watch. You want to?
Right, it's November 5th, right? At Cabrillo College, Sacred Grounds. If you want to talk about it, I'll contact you. And it is a very inspiring work of a man who organized people in the 40s, very timely for now, and the need for us to be in relationship with each other, our neighbors, our friends, people in the community. Connect with people. We need it desperately. And this man made a life of it. A wonderful, inspiring documentary.
You can also learn more about it by going to www.americanagitators.com. I think it's in the e-blast, but there's a link there, and you can actually watch the trailer for the film there and learn more about the film. So if that helps you decide if you want to go, and then sign up to carpool so that we are saving the environment as we all go over to Cabrillo College. All right, thank you, Sue. Save the dates. There's handouts in the back if you haven't gotten one yet, just all the various things coming up for the holidays, just so you know when they're all going to be. And finally, Church of the Wild meets today at 2 p.m. at Via Paraiso. And if you have any questions about what that entails, you can ask me. Rain cancels, but I don't think any rain is predicted today, so I think we should be fine, and you need to bring a camp chair and a sweater. All right, as we bring our service to a close this morning, we are so grateful that you have joined us, whether you're here in person with us or you're watching us on Facebook Live or watching later on our YouTube channel. We're just glad that you found us. We hope we've made you feel at home in our Unity of Monterey Bay community. And most importantly, we want you to know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Prayer chaplain today is Sue. Sue is available to pray with you after the service, so thank you, Sue, and thank you to all our prayer chaplains, always holding the high watch for our community. All right, before we make our closing circle, let's do our responsive reading for our nation. We believe in the sacred potential of our country and the divine intelligence guiding its path.
We affirm that wisdom, compassion, and justice are rising in the hearts of all people.
In a world that cries out for healing, we listen deeply for spiritual truth.
Be open to the wisdom that leads to wholeness for all.
We do not surrender to fear, division, or despair.
We anchor ourselves in faith, courage, and shared humanity.
We call forth leaders who are guided by integrity and vision.
We affirm solutions that uplift both personal freedom and collective care.
May this nation grow in love, unity, and awakening.
And may we each be instruments of peace, justice, and joy.
And all the people said, Amen. Let's form our closing circle for our prayer for protection and our peace song. So as we form this beautiful circle of love and community, oneness and connection, we hold in this circle all those in our hearts this morning who are in need of prayer. You can say their names out loud if you wish, or just say them to yourself.
Candy.
Ed and Ruth.
And so all of these dear ones, as well as all those on our prayer lists, we hold them in the circle of love and we see them uplifted. And we see divine order established in whatever situation or challenge they are moving through. And we know that God is always with them. And we wish that they might be comforted by that presence of God. And so will you please join me as we hold these folks in our hearts as we say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is.